Okay, the good news is I still remember how to do this. And now I can show you how to do this. So let's hop back into Blender. And holy cow, we've got timestamps. And that's not me typing that in. That is actually from, and let me get into my VS Code to show you this. And I have to change folders because I've been doing something else. And it is Merlin 3D. And it is this file here, our CDP neighbor file for routers. It's taking timestamp there, right? So this is the 0 index. So let's go ahead and add the actual timestamp, and let's show you how this is done. Now this all looks the same from where I left off from the last video, but I've added a new object iterator here for the timestamp, which is an object, right? So let's go ahead and I know these are too close already, but we'll deal with that as we go. Um, so let's go ahead and make an object, and we have a timestamp label, right? Let's make a new object, and because I want the same properties, more or less, I'm going to copy and paste the label. And we're going to come to the object properties here, and we're going to call this timestamp value. So we're going to have a label and a value for each of the key pairs in this data set as we go. And our job is to place them around the routers. Now, I want to use something fancy just for the timestamp because it's a time value. Let's go ahead and use our fonts, our fonts, our fonts, and let's use the alarm clock font. Now, it doesn't look good for text, but it's going to be numbers, so ignore that. We're going to go ahead and hide this now. Don't need that anymore. Now, let's go ahead and instantiate it. Now, I could copy and paste one of these, which is what I recommend you do. But for now, just to show you here, it's Shift-A, subprogram, no, object, excuse me, object instancer. Okay, we want an instancer. Or we could just copy and paste here. We want to turn deep copy and full object on. Now, what is the object? Well, it is timestamp value. And we're going to just connect it from our source for the number of instances. And then, hey, we have two new instances that are hovering under the switch because we haven't dealt with their location. Now, we're not done here yet. We need to connect it into our invoke subprogram. And as we go, let's just bring things up to make it easy to manage. And so now we're going to come into this logic. And again, here's what we did to deal with the router, where we just transformed its location. We're going to do the same thing, but we need the text. I don't want it to say timestamp. I want it to have the actual timestamp value. So we're going to add a text object output and then connect the text into the array of data. All right, so first we need that new iterator, which is an object list. And our object is timestamp values. Now we need to connect that in here, right? See how we have a new object here we can connect? It connects in here because it's added it to the invoke subprogram. Now we can manage it and deal with it. So we're going to come down here, and again, just to keep things a little tidy as we go, keep that in the center. Keep that there because they're going to spawn off of there. And yeah, just to make this a little prettier and easier for us to work with. Let's move that over there and that over there. All right, so what we need is an object transform output. We can Control C, Control V, or we can Shift A, object transforms output. And we want to transform the X, Y, Z. And what do we want? Well, we need an object and we need the location. Let's deal with the location. So we're going to need a combine vector node, right? So if we do Shift A and there's vector combine, and we'll just plug that in here. Now, we know that we want to place it right, with relative to these objects. So let's see if we can plug this result in here. Well, we're going to have to connect the object in before it transforms it. All right, so let's do that next. And it's a text object output. Down here, we know the object is going to be this object. So now we have two things to plug in. The actual object, which is the timestamp values. Okay, no problem. And now we can actually place the timestamp values. Let's just see what it looks like here. That's pretty good. And then what we can do is type in 10 here, right? But we don't want to subtract it by 3, right? So what we're going to do is disconnect that. We're going to make a new math node, number math, connect in our result, and we're going to add, let's just try 1, and let's place that there. Okay, that's pretty good. Now we obviously need to spread everything out more. So that's going to be here. Let's multiply it by 15. Let's multiply it by 20. And then we need to subtract 10. That's better. Okay, so now we need to offset that timestamp more. So let's add 3. Now, let's leave it there because we don't know what it's going to look like once we have the real data plugged in. So let's deal with this text. Now, where's the text going to come from? It's not going to come from the object. It's going to come from the router data. That raw data from router data. And what we want to do is get an element list. We get 0 for timestamp, right? So I'm going to, let's see if I can find list get element. Okay, now what's important here is to change this type. Now how to do that is right where we execute our node tree, click on item here, change type, and it needs to be a generic list. Very important step. Meaning I don't want any transformations between this link and that link. I don't want any conversions here. So that means you have to make this a list. And then what we want to do is 1. I don't want 0. I want the value. Now, again, you can see this is where we convert it to text with a, I don't know where a convert node is. I think it's in subprograms. No. I usually just search for convert because I'm not quite sure. All right, let's just do Control A, convert. And again, not to generic. We want to convert it to text. Connect that there, and then we connect our text in here. And as soon as I make this connection and I turn it on, see? Our text has changed. Now, before we push it over, let's go into our parent value and let's deal with the character spacing. Let's try 0.5, and I think I have to click the deep copy to make this take effect. Okay, that's too much. 0.9. 0.9 is not bad, and then this is word spacing becomes 0 to tighten them up a little bit. And let's also give it, okay, it already has timestamp. Okay, good. Now we can move it over. All right, so we're done dealing with that. We want to now move that to +5. +5 is pretty nice, and it's all centered up pretty good. We could probably push everything over to the left a little bit. Let's try that as +4, and this one is -4. A little better, right? If we look up from above, it's all fairly centered. Not bad. Looking good. So now we have the rest of all of that data to lay in. And I'm not going to record all of it, but we're going to put the device ID and some different things. I might come back to you when I get to these interfaces. So I'm going to overlay all this other data. Some of the data I might overlay this way so that I have a nice concise report this way, and then maybe the details if I swing the camera, or this way if I swing the camera, likely to the left. So like this software version, it's this big long string. I don't want that in the way, but I want the data. So what I'll do is I'll tuck it, you know, over here somewhere onto the left. So let's have some fun with the rest of this. I'll overlay the rest of the data. And then once I'm ready to overlay interfaces, I will come back to you. Okay, so we have timestamps, timestamp labels, a couple of routers. Pretty good so far. I'll finish up the data, finish up that data, right? This way and this way. And then the interfaces, we'll try to do something a little different with those. So stay tuned and stay safe.